Order. Let's rise for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have roll call, please.
Lee,
Here.
Kibble,
Here.
Bartlett,
Yes.
Ewan,
Here.
and Gonzalez.
Here. Okay. Item number 3, review for conflict of interest. Is there any? Seeing none. Okay, approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, moved by Tracy and seconded by John. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Approval of the minutes of 6/11/2024. I do have one change to the minutes, and that is on page 4. It is the spelling of the name of Mr. Berend. Is that correct? Is there an H or no H? There is an H. Okay. So on page 4, right after where it says Gonzalez closed meeting 7/16, I want to correct it with an H in that spot. And then down on line 6, also an H in that spot for his name.
Chairman Gonzalez, I'd like to clarify a statement that I made in the minutes. That would be on page 4. In the very bottom sentence almost, it says Vandercook clarified that there can be 1 billboard per mile in the township along US 31. The regulations under 606 billboards, number 2A says not more than 2 billboards may be located per lineal mile of highway, regardless that such billboards may be located on different sides of the highway. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And I think I have one clarification, also on page 4, if I'm reading this right, Bob. Second paragraph, he added the proposed board would include an electronic display board and a 300-foot variance. I think it should be a 100-foot variance, shouldn't it?
Correct. Are there any other corrections to the minutes?
I just want to, if you don't mind,
Sure.
Gonzalez, I believe that we need to really look at that because there is a difference between the variances. So that 300-foot is something that we should just, for a minute, just take and consider here. Well, billboards shall be located in the billboard section 606. I just want to read this as a 606 2C.
It's 200.
No billboard should be located within 200 feet of a residential zone and or existing residence. If the billboard is illuminated, this distance shall be 300 feet. I just wanted to point that out, so.
Right, but they're requesting a 100-foot variance, right, to be 200 feet. Is that
Right.
the variance request, am I reading that?
It's part of it, you know, my understanding, it's within, the location is proposed to be within 300 feet or less, so yes.
Right, thank you.
So it should still be 100 feet in the minutes, right?
And I believe there's also, I read in one of the emails, I think, page 5, one link stated the applicant should provide findings of fact by June 27th, and I think close of business, June 27th should be added to that. Because that was what was in the motion.
Where are you?
The last sentence of that, On page 5,
Second first paragraph,
yeah.
Okay,
page 5.
gotcha. All right. Any other corrections or adjustments to the minutes? Okay, seeing none, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to accept the minutes of June 11th, 2024 as amended.
I will second that.
Moved by John to accept, seconded by Ron. All in favor? Rod, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Thank you. All right, now we'll go to public comment on any item which is not on the agenda, and we'll open the public comment at 6:35. Good, seeing none, we'll close it at 6:35. Correspondence?
Chairman Gonzalez,
Yes, sir.
we received a letter from Mr. Lapka regarding 5669 Broadwood Trail. He's withdrawing his variance application. He's decided to move the house in compliance with the ordinance and get a land use permit and build. So,
Great. Good, thank you.
additionally, I've supplied the board with hard copies of correspondence that was sent out and supplied the applicant with the same information.
Okay. Okay, reports, Township Board.
Yeah, we had a reports meeting last night, so lots of good information. I'm not going to go into detail because there was lots, but just a couple of things that kind of stood out to me. And I don't know, Bill, if you're going to touch on Claire's report from last night, but they have approved 18, I think it was 18 land use permits this year so far, and in the previous several years, it's been like 12 to 16 for the entire year. So a lot of activity going on in our planning and zoning. So they have been extremely busy. And then the ambulance also had an annual report, and they have put on a second ambulance truck. I think it's 4 days a week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I think is the 4 days. And they have used it, I think he said 36 times to be able to offset when both our trucks have been out, or both our ambulances have been out on calls. So that's been very, very helpful on those busy weekend times. And they're doing that for 12 or 16 weeks. So that's been very helpful and very busy. So just a few highlights.
Yeah, given Cherry Festival, where I live on Munson, I can vouch for the number of ambulances that
Oh,
have
I
gone
bet.
by. So, okay, thank you. For the Planning Commission, we had our meeting on July 2nd. We had about 4 items, one of which was the appointment of team members for a subcommittee for the Beach Planning District, of which one of our members is on that. And that is a recommendation has gone to the Board of Trustees, which I'm sure they had worked on.
I believe we approved that in the consent calendar last
Right.
night.
Then we had 2 items requested for basically growth of some pool bonds, and those were both approved. And then also there was a request for a increase in the care for a child care facility that they wanted to increase from 6 to 12, and that was also approved. So it was a pretty good meeting, a lot of business, but we got through it pretty quick. Thank you. Planning and zoning?
No report from Planning and Zoning, Chairman Gonzalez.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, we are now going to move to the business of the evening, which is business before the zoning board. This was a previously tabled variance request dealing with a dimensional variance request for a sign on US 31. So, Bill?
Chairman Gonzalez, this is for Appeal 224 and 223. The first is variance request is for a dimensional variance from Section 6062E to allow for a billboard with a surface display area of 220.60 feet, resulting in a 145.60 feet dimensional variance. The maximum allowable surface display area for a billboard sign located at 1752 US 31 North is 75 square feet. The second is a dimensional variance from Section 6062C to allow for the billboard to be placed 200 feet from an existing residence, resulting in a 100-foot dimensional variance. Thank you.
Bill, I believe because it's an illuminated sign, it's the 300-foot limit, is that correct?
That's right. So if the billboard is illuminated, the required distance from an existing residence is 300 feet. Thank you.
Okay.
To turn it over to Attorney Peter Wendling.
I believe we need to vote to untable the variance request because we tabled it.
I guess since we did take a vote to table it, we need to
Yeah.
untable it.
So
Okay.
I would make a motion that we untable variance requests 2.24 and 3.24.
Second.
Okay. Move to untable the variance request by Tracy, seconded by John. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Thank you.
And just so you know, in the future, you probably don't have to do the tabling as long as the meetings are adjourned at the call of the chair, then the old business carries over and you don't have to worry about that under Robert's rules. So,
Okay.
Good. Makes it easy. All right.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Peter Wendling, Young, Graham, and Wendling, Township Attorney. And Bill's already outlined the basics of what the variance request is. As published, we've already gone through our public hearing. The applicant, through his attorney, Mr. Barrett, has provided their proposed findings of fact. In turn, staff looked at the request, looked at all the evidence that came in, and has also provided suggested findings of fact to the board. There may be some substitutions, deletions, adjustments, or additions. That's certainly within the province of the ZBA to make as they go through and deliberate under the standards contained in the zoning ordinance. Right now, the findings are simply suggestions. It's up to you to decide whether or not they're appropriate to be adopted as your findings by the ZBA. Case law and statute clearly allows parties as well as staff, including the township attorney, to assist the board in making findings of fact, or at least drafting them up, and then the board makes its own decision as to whether to adopt them by reference or adopt modified versions, deleted versions, or their own versions if they wish to enter it in there. I only ask that you be consistent all the way through, and sometimes I know there's conflicts that arise between competing findings. You have a couple here and there, but I trust you'll be able to get through this and make any decisions, and Bill and I are here both to assist you.
Thank you.
Just a couple other comments I want to make. I mean, part of the difficulty with this variance request has to do with the issue of practical difficulty. It's not so much that whether or not the sign is safe for motorists or won't be disruptive, but that it's not in and of itself, a reason for a practical difficulty. So that's one of the things I wanted to point out as we go through.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, does the applicant want to come up and say anything?
Good evening. Again, Adam Barrett, Bodman PLC. My address is 1901 St. Antoine, 6th floor at Ford Field, Detroit, Michigan. I thank you, Mr. Wendling, for summarizing. We did provide our proposed findings of fact. We have also reviewed the township's proposed findings as well. I wanted to also make sure that you were provided with the YouTube link that I sent to Mr. Wendling that showed the technology that we were proposing to use.
Yeah, we got it.
Okay, well,
We have a schematic, yes.
no, it was you asked before about the light emitting diodes that are being
Right.
used, that would
Right.
show how.
Right,
yeah,
right.
see through the sign. So I just wanted to make sure that that was included as well.
Okay.
Unless you have any other questions of us.
Do you, I didn't,
I must have missed it.
Yeah. I didn't see a YouTube link.
I don't know where in here it's buried or,
Going to link if,
You want to take an opportunity and have them look at that link then?
just, if it was a link.
It was a link?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was something that we had discussed, so,
So,
You
yeah.
guys had questioned what this light.
Yes.
technology, and there was a video attached that you could go in and watch that would literally show you as you were driving down the road, the closer you got to the sign, the way it directed the light, that there was no light
Yeah,
being,
I was
that
gonna bring it up.
adjacent properties like the Port Traverse would not be able to even see what's on the board from their point of view. And then a light study showing that. We can
If
play
you,
it for
if you,
We better to dim these lights?
I need to find it first.
Okay.
Okay, now you come back up.
okay.
where was it?
No, he said it was a video,
Right.
so,
I'm assuming it was in an
Where was the
email.
link?
If Tracy saw it, came in a link, so, I mean, we had got a lot of information, so it would have been in the link in the information that Jeff
Yeah, I saw it while I was on vacation, but,
sent to us, so. Yeah, I wouldn't have just sent it to Tracy, so.
no, I want,
But that's fine, the applicant has an
Yeah.
opportunity to present it now,
Yeah.
so let's let him do so.
Yeah, I have it.
are you going to project it?
I don't know how we can do that. I can send the link right here to him and we can, if you guys have a way to project it, or maybe watch it on his iPad.
see,
I'm looking for the
I just sent it to you.
their application.
But it was just the technology.
Yeah, I figured they would
Just send it.
have it in a
I was
presentation.
looking for that.
Yeah, I was going to say, that would be something that I really would like to see.
Yeah, and maybe if Ann can project it, we can send it to her.
I don't know how.
You'd have to hook up.
Yeah, you'd have to hook up and.
Should we do a recess? Paul,
Which email?
Chairman. Should we do a
Well,
recess?
6-6 is the only one I get.
While they set it up, should we like recess for 5 minutes? Might be quick.
66@gmail.
Yeah, I was waiting for that too. I wanted to see that video.
Oh, I just got it.
Dave Wendling.
Number 66.
Can you move up here, Ann?
Yeah, yeah.
Probably. I feel like packets just need to be like brought into the 21st century and have like a video packet or something. I don't know.
Do we need to put the meeting on hold for a minute?
If you want to take a recess for 5 minutes to make sure this gets linked up, we can do.
okay, we'll take a recess and we'll be back at, how about 7:05? No, excuse me, make that, about 5 minutes, 5 minutes.
Image quality is crisp and clear for motorists and pedestrians, day or night. While light from the billboard is alleviated the moment the viewer leaves the specified display area. This provides a neighborhood-friendly approach to digital billboards without compromising the viewability from the intended audience. Light direct light mitigating technology is just one part of the Daktronics difference. Learn more at daktronics.com/out-of-home.
So these ones are a much bigger size.
Yeah, that's your traditional bulletin size of 14 feet by 48 feet, so.
That's it.
Did I miss something, or I think one of the questions that we had is that as you go to the side of the billboard, you say that I didn't see where most of these things were facing on.
Very beginning.
That's where it went black, yeah, and on this, the top one right here.
We run that again?
Sure. So this is just general information. As it gets to scrolling by the sign, the Port Traverse would be in this area, but on this side. And this light direct narrows this thing, the light emittance down to the viewing angle where you'll be able to read.
Okay.
Zero and black.
All right.
Now it's going black.
They came back from black when you left.
So you'll only be able to see it from the actual roadway.
Your TVs used to be like this. If you remember when LEDs first came out, if you stood in the side of the room, you couldn't see the TV very well.
All right. Thank you.
Sam's good.
I think that's all we really have, unless you guys have questions for us. We'd be willing to answer as they come up.
Okay. All right, we'll have a public comment, which will be opened at 6:53.
Good evening. My name is Todd Millar, and I'm an attorney at Parker Harvey Law Firm here in Traverse City. My firm represents Relo Estato LLC, which is a property owner within East Bay Township. And on behalf of our client, we are asking that the board deny the variance request in this case. The most basic reason is that they already have a legal non-conforming structure on the property, and while it's commendable that they're proposing to tear that down and get rid of that legal non-conforming structure, that's not a legitimate reason to then turn around and grant them a variance to construct another non-conforming structure that, by my math, is 3 times larger than what the zoning ordinance permits in terms of this type of billboard. Secondly, when it comes to applying the standards for granting a variance request, we believe they have a problem with the self-created nature of this problem. Again, they already have a billboard that is there that they can use and that they can continue to use as a legal non-conforming use. They want to tear it down, and then they want to build another non-conforming structure. That's a self-created condition and hazard, and so we would ask that the ZBA deny the variance request. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Good boy.
Good evening. My name is Doug Monroe. I am a resident of the Port Traverse Condominium Association, which is across the street from the desired location for the billboard, and I've been a resident of Port Traverse for 20 years. I would only like to point out a couple of things, one from the video that we just watched itself, where the speaker on the video said that the lights would only be visible to the intended audience, which clearly are the drivers that are driving along the road. And then following the video, one of the representatives said it can only be seen from the actual roadway. Now, you will have been sent previously research from various federal agencies identifying the difficulty and the danger of road distractions, particularly along curves. The whole point of billboard advertising is to attract the eyes of the people who are driving along the road. Therefore, it is by definition a distraction, and so on the safety issue alone, we would object to this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Going once? Twice?
I don't want to get out. I just want to say.
But
You have to be
you
at
need
the
to because it's
lectern.
It's recorded, so. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Mary Lee Godezak, and I live at Port Traverse, and I've lived there for 30 years. Now, driving in and out of Port Traverse is dangerous as it is with the curb, and with this huge billboard that people are going to be catching with their eye, they're not going to be paying attention to anybody that's going into that middle lane. We already have problems with the Dairy Queen kind of, with people driving in and making a left-hand side, and I'm coming out of Port Traverse making, making a right hand, and we both meet right in the middle there. And with this billboard, people aren't going to be paying attention. Their eye automatically is going to be caught to the billboard, even if they're concentrating on their driving. And that's all I wanted to say. It's going to be dangerous for us.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Okay. Seeing none, we'll close it at 6:58. All right. Back to the board. Comments?
How far down the road are you expecting
Please come up to the lectern, please.
people to be able to start reading the sign? You can probably see it quite a ways off, but what's your distance you want to be able to?
Yeah, seeing it and reading it are different. So you'll see it a ways, 1,000 feet away. You won't start reading that until about 300 to 400 feet in there. I would like to point out, we did present the traffic studies, and the Federal Highway Administration, Safety Administration has accepted those studies as billboards are no more dangerous than any other type of sign out there. They don't cause any more distraction.
If you look at the light study, you can see the ratio, it's probably close to 300 feet, there's 400 feet.
Yeah, try to look through it, couldn't share.
That's your stack.
You understand, there's a lot of documents there.
Okay. Anything else, John?
No, I'm just looking here.
We can come back. Trent?
I was just curious to hear more outside of, the light studies. Was there any businesses you've talked to that have been asking that, from the last meeting, there was the Pirates Cove owner who expressed serious concerns, and I was just curious, is there, what value are you seeing this billboard bring to the corridor and to the community?
So we have a digital billboard down at 3 Mile and US 31. That billboard is sold out, all 8 spots on both sides, 100% of the time. We don't have the capacity to offer to businesses. In Traverse City and East Bay on US 31 is a huge tourist spot, and it just keeps growing. I don't think that's ever going to change, nor would the community want it to. We can't offer businesses that are asking for this advertising the space they need. Our current lease is with Pirates Cove, and he was voicing an objection. But I would like to point out that if you look at those photos that are in there, he also utilizes the existing billboard on his property. So for him to now say, well, it could be a distraction, I'd just like to say that it wasn't a distraction while he was using it, while he was afforded that opportunity to use that advertising.
Well, I mean, a static billboard is a little different than a digital billboard. So, I mean, those concerns aren't just shared by him, but also by the public. You did mention your other digital billboard that was on 3 Mile. I made sure to pass it today just so I can get one more visual of it. I'm curious if you can, I wasn't on the ZBA when that was built. I was curious how that one was built. Was it before this current zoning ordinance took into effect? What did that look like? I don't know if the board or...
Just for clarification, you're talking for the billboard at the 3 Mile?
Yeah, like 3 Mile where Culver, like by Culver's.
Okay.
Yeah.
That one was permitted per the zoning ordinance. The other one that is down towards Burger King,
That's in Acme
Yeah.
Township. So
No, it's not.
East Bay.
that is in East Bay. Oh, okay.
that little parcel is the only piece of, that billboard is on, is the only piece that's in the township. When that was built, it was granted a variance because their hardship was, that's the only thing you could do with that property because it was such a small, I mean, it's literally 20 feet wide by maybe 40 feet long. So that's the only thing they could use it for. So that was their hardship. There was a variance granted for that.
Okay.
I too drove over there before I came today, I think, and I was watching the advertising on there, and they're all over.
Sure.
So, and as, the tourist season comes, they call Lamar or its competitors asking for spaces, and there's nothing available.
Okay. And I guess one last question I have to build off my first one. Was there any businesses that went on the record along the corridor that wanted to speak in favor of this variance?
We didn't solicit anybody, no.
Okay.
The demand is there, and we think that we do think that it does add a value to the community. One, businesses will be able to advertise on it, which will allow those businesses to grow. When those businesses to grow, the community grows and the tax base grows. The other benefit to the township with that is that if the township needs PSA messages or needs something for that sign, like you want to advertise Election Day, well, we can't say, hey, vote for this candidate free of charge. We can put PSAs up there that say Election Day is November 2nd, please vote. The township has a millage coming up, please vote. We can't sway people one way or the other because we have to remain independent, but it's something that we can do for the township that adds a community benefit.
All right. Thank you. That's my questions.
Just clarify, and I think I've got it right, the 3 Mile billboard and the one out at Burger King, the 5 Mile, those are both the older style, right? They're both, they are not this new technology.
Correct, and they're twice the size. So these billboards have about a 10 to 12-year lifespan before you would need to replace the modules in it, which is similar to replacing the light bulbs in these light fixtures. You take the old light bulbs out, you put the new ones in. When that billboard at 3 Mile, which is coming up in about 4 years, when that comes to the point where those LED modules need to be replaced, they will be replaced with the light emitting technology, which will cost us more. And if that's something that the township wants to make sure that we are held to doing, you can make it hope I'm not speaking out of turn, I'm sure Peter can help you guys. You can make that as a stipulation to this variance that will do that, if that's a concern.
Well, I was trying to compare the two too, also, just,
That one's about 9 years old,
Yeah.
so it just didn't exist then.
yeah, and that's what I was trying to look at, because this technology is, it's pretty cool.
Right, and compare it to when you're freeway driving and you look at incandescent lamps or LEDs, hitting up on a billboard and going out, they're dispersing a lot of light. These LEDs are very tight.
And that's a thought too, because the existing one today is an uplit, right?
Yeah, they're LED fixtures, but they do disperse light that is not directed at the billboard. And I didn't mean to call you Peter, it's Mr. Wendling,
It's
sorry.
fine, don't worry.
I should have.
The new sign will be, if I'm reading this right, 20 feet tall compared to the 30 foot. So
Yes,
basically speaking, the top of the billboard will be where the bottom of the billboard is now.
yes, about there.
I've also noticed that there's some trees around this billboard. We'll probably do some blocking of the billboard.
Those bushes are growing into the foundation, so when we dig out the foundation, those bushes are gonna end up coming out. Because we have to remove the entire foundation when we remove the existing billboard.
Just like Pirates Cove was doing, because that's on their property, right?
Yeah, but it's part of our lease that we are permitted to do that when we remove the structure. We have to. It's actually not permitted, we're required to restore it to the previous
Previous, yeah.
condition. Not to mention, I'm sure that Bill could answer, but the township is going to require us to remove the foundation. Most do.
Can you explain in the presentation, what can I say, the cone of light that is emitted by the billboard? That in the presentation, the new technology has reduced down that cone. Why, can you tell me why that, how that actually reduces down and how that would affect the neighborhoods?
So it's similar to like a mag light. You know when you take a flashlight and you turn it on and you can turn that flashlight and it emits a wide beam, so you can illuminate a whole room, or you can screw that down and you can narrow that flashlight down to where it's just pointing at one thing. That's a similar situation with these new technology digital billboards. The way they do it is there are 3 LEDs in that billboard, red, blue, and green. And the red, blue, and green LEDs make up 256 million colors that they're capable of doing, just your primary colors. The way those LEDs on the old billboards are focused like this, these ones are focused like this, and they have a louver, which is like a hard plastic shield that hangs over top that forces that light at an angle and narrows that down, similar to when you screw a flashlight down.
So basically, the width of the mag light example is going to be the width of the road. So it's going to be basically the 60, probably the US, so it's probably 8 feet of siding on the lane, so it's approximately 60 feet.
These things are so technologically advanced that it has a light sensor on there, so it knows how much ambient light is around, and it will adjust that billboard by the day, by the light, how much ambient light is on. So it knows if it's foggy to dim the billboard down. It knows that during the day to turn the billboard up. And that's because during the day, nothing can be brighter than the sun, right? When the sun's at full, you can't compete with those lumens that sun puts out. That's what a billboard does, or this billboard does, is it will turn the light up during the day when it's full sunshine, and as the cloud or overcast or rain comes in, it knows to dim that down and make it less powerful so that it doesn't blind people when it comes by, when you drive by it or walk by it.
So we're looking at adjusting the cone down, if you will, to concentrate on 300 feet in front of the sign
Yep, just the traffic.
at the 3 lanes, it's a 5-lane road with a center turn. So you're focusing that down to those 3 lanes then,
Correct.
and not the entire road?
No, I'm sorry, it's the width of the road.
Yep.
I didn't realize it was 5 lanes.
Well, it's not, it's 2, it's 5, 2 in one direction, 2 in another, and then the turn lane.
Center
in the middle.
line.
Right, so then to your, yeah, but yes, it's for, one bound of traffic, it's not going across to the other town.
People going away from it, not, okay.
Correct.
All right, well, I guess maybe one of the things was the left-hand turn lane. Can it be narrowed down enough where it takes that out of the picture also, or is that just getting it too confined?
That's getting it too confined. There's no way to control it quite that yet. I'm sure we're getting to the point with technology where that's one day that will be possible, because it just seems to keep bypassing us all.
With all the technology and the clarity of these lights with the messages, why isn't a 75 square foot sign as effective as what you propose?
It's actually more dangerous for motorists, because what you'll find with a 75 square foot sign is people will be slowing down to read it, because by the time they get upon it, it's too small, too narrow of a viewing lane for them to read that sign and to put text or whatever copy is going to go up there.
Think about what is the Dairy Queen do to combat that, right? They change the message about every 3 seconds. They're trying to flash your attention.
Right. Well, you have about an 8-second timing on your ads, right? 7 to 8 seconds?
8 seconds.
8 seconds is what
That's by state law.
In the studies that you provided us, the odd item that struck me is that, first of all, they have different distances, and they use as a baseline 0.6 of a mile as their baseline. But I found it curious that when the billboards were put in with lights, the traffic accidents went down. And I was curious because consistently in all the studies, they all went down across the board, whether it be age, lights, whatever, they all went down. And I puzzled over that, and the only thing I could think of is that, in fact, people slow down to see the signs. So, in effect, that smaller billboard would be a safer condition.
It just isn't legible at those speeds. What you'll get is people slowing down abruptly closer to the sign because they can't read what's on there. And if somebody wants to put up, for instance, stop at Pirates Cove, free golf, you could never put free golf on a sign that was 10 by 7. It just wouldn't work because you can't fit the text in there. It just doesn't work. I think the reason when you look at the studies, and I noticed that the studies that as they illuminated signs, the accidents went down, but I think you can attribute that more to as it gets darker, the signs illuminated, so people aren't swerving or slowing down or struggling to read that sign because it's now illuminated instead of in pitch black darkness.
Mr. Gonzalez, I don't have an answer for you either, but I would speculate it's because it's not legible. Is why. The illuminated signs can be read as opposed to the non-illuminated ones in the first way you try to read.
And looking at the size of these signs, Lamar Advertising as a company, across the country, we have 126,000 posters, and that's what this sign is considered as a poster. If all of those signs could have been built as 75 square feet and been effective, we would have done that because we built bigger signs for no reason at that point, right? If you could read them and they were effective. This is an industry standard size poster board sign. Nobody would buy a 2,000 square foot house if they only needed 1,000 square feet. That's the same thing for us. This size is an industry standard that we have done studies on that show the legibility of text size, what text size can be used, how people can read these signs as they go by.
Just as a note, most of the signage that they showed, whether it be in Ohio and I think they had 21 signs, or whether it be in the other areas where they had 7 signs. Most of those were on major highways, from what I had seen with the pictures. Most of those were on freeways. So they had straightaways as opposed to almost a pedestrian area like we have on 31. And that's just a comment as to what they are.
It's an interesting comment, though, Mr. Gonzalez. If you think about it, it's the same comment to the McDonald's sign. It's the same comment to the 2 flashing signs on the communities next to the area. So all on-premise businesses are using the same signs. There's a volcano next to this sign, as an example. So there are a lot of things that are attracting attention. And I think motorists, have a way to effectively drone those things out, because the most dangerous thing in the car still remains this. Right, people-
Yeah, we should have laws that people don't follow, but go ahead.
Correct. If you look at the Dairy Queen sign next door as an example, that sign is about half this size. It's big, their entire signage package is bigger than 75 square feet, but they're running full motion on that sign. Video.
Which is illegal under state law.
We're not asking to run any sort of dynamic or movable copy. There will be no sound, no light, no video.
Yeah, I think my biggest concern, I guess, on your comment is that on freeways, you've got straightaways, there's very limited access, no pedestrians. And even I know we saw those people cross the middle of the road when we were out there, which means nothing to your sign, just that sometimes people come up on vacation, and think I can do anything, and you get people doing everything. So my concern would be you can't go 200 feet without passing the driveway on 31 there. My biggest concern is looking at the sign for 2 seconds, and someone says, well, that's my driveway, and away we go, or you've got to stop all of a sudden because there's somebody crossing the parking lot. I don't know how much that would interfere with the sign, or whether or not we improve this or not, but that's just my concerns. And I don't think we have any kind of we didn't do when you look at what kind of accidents were down there, as far as pedestrian accidents or any kind of rear-end accidents or anything.
The only thing I can say in relation to that is that size, the sign that is existing now exists in a higher, a taller and larger format than what we're proposing here. You're right, it would be a tragedy if somebody got hit, but when we look at these sign studies, the average time that somebody looked at a static billboard, which already exists, was 1.28 seconds. The average time that during all of these studies, over thousands of miles of roadway that people looked at, and they did take place on more than just limited access highways, roads like US 31 that are US highways, the average time that somebody looked at a digital sign was 1.34 seconds. So that is 0.6 seconds longer. It would be a tragedy if somebody got hit coming up on vacation and running across the road. But 0.6 seconds isn't going to change that people are going to cross at places they shouldn't. That's more of an enforcement issue, I think. I mean, we got to put up signs. We got to get people using crosswalks. Maybe another over the road is necessary over there, because there's only one that leads from the campground to the beach.
And I'm not
I
trying
know,
to say that
no.
sign means that, just we have to be concerned about that.
I totally understand.
Chairman Gonzalez.
Yes.
We were at a board meeting last night, and the ambulance, Nick, was there, and he was talking about where there was a majority of accidents. Was that?
Yeah, their busiest district or box is what they refer them to, because the township is split into different call boxes, and that's box 15 is between 3 and 5 mile. And that is by far their busiest call volume, is that strip down there. Whether it's accidents or going to, a location, there was not differentiation between that, but that is the busiest.
That would include a number of hotels. stadium,
Right, yeah, and
Campground.
he had no ability, one, because of the county computer issues, to break it down as far as if they were accidents or, a call to a hotel or a restaurant or something else. But that is, he did say that that was their busiest call district.
Not to ignore you, but do you have any questions? Or
Well, I mean, one of my concerns, because I've been listening to all this, and one, I mean, I've never been a fan of all of the signage that's down on that strip, period. Way back to when I was on the Planning Commission, and we were dealing with signage down there. But we just went through a huge beach district visioning session, and from what I understand, signage, I mean, they didn't want bigger and better, they wanted less, and we've spent money putting banners up, and we've got more congestion down there as far as signage on the strip. So I don't believe that it is going bigger and illuminating is going to help that at all. I don't think what's there is necessarily helpful to it either. So that concerns me because I don't believe it is the aesthetic of what that visioning is for that district that we're working on. So that concerns me too. Along with, it's just big. And I think, and I don't know, having it lower, I don't know that I necessarily think that's helpful. Illuminated or not, I think that makes more congestion, but that's my opinion. So.
you've been at meetings on the Beach District. Has any comments come up about that?
They want to, a lot of people are saying they want the preservation of the natural beauty of the corridor, focus on regrowing trees. And I share Tracy's concerns. I really don't see that this sign is going to contribute to that vision.
One thing I noticed down through there is natural landscape there. Like in a number of cities is, all the wires are above on poles. And you almost can't see signs because of all the poles and the lines. So until they start thinking about putting those underground or moving them off the road, I mean, I don't see where the
Yeah.
site is going to improve that much.
And we have tried several
I believe
times,
it.
when we redid the sewer pipe down there, we tried to, I mean, even before that, when the road was redone the time before last, we've tried to get the utilities to go under, but it's cost prohibitive for the utilities at this point. But, we always ask and we always try when we're doing anything down there because we're, the accidents, I mean, how many people have hit that same light pole down by Pirates Cove? I mean, it's gone over several times. And so, yeah, we always ask, at least the township board does. But until we can,
It's very expensive. and
Yeah.
very time consuming and very,
right, and there's not much road right-of-way, which, we're also working with MDOT on trying to get different crosswalk options, and, that's been a huge effort, and we're making some progress. MDOT is at least talking to us now about putting different crosswalks at a couple of different locations. Unfortunately, where Pirates Cove is where the main one that they wanted to put, and they weren't allowed to do that. Pirates Cove didn't want them to put it there. So, we're looking for places to do that, to make those those in between the intersections trying to make more crosswalks so that it is safer for those people that crossed, while we were down there. I mean, that's close to where we wanted one, and there's reasons for that, so.
Yeah, that particular spot does not have a traffic light to
No.
slow you down like 3 Mile does.
Right, right. And 3 Mile has a good crosswalk, and they're trying to do something. I think
gonna
something
move it, too.
similar to what's down, like on the other side of town, close to, is that Division? That they have that in between there, they have those, the center island, and you can still get through there, and it's flashing and all that, to let you know that people are crossing and the traffic has to slow down.
Right.
So let me ask you this, would it help alleviate the concern with crosswalks if, when we had unsold space up there, we put PSAs up there that said, or instructed people to please use the crosswalks?
Well, that can't be any part of, you offering
No.
us free
I'm not trying to-
PSAs is not
I'm not
gonna,
trying to sway the decision. I'm saying, would this be something that would help you?
it may,
Would be
but
willing
you
to do
just
it?
told us that there will never be unsold space because
There'll be chunks here
they're
and
sold
there.
out.
Well,
all the time,
let's,
so.
that
But
is
that's not
no
part of this
issue
discussion.
whatsoever with the discussion as to the physicality of what's being sought. But thank you. Okay.
Is there a standard size sign that's smaller than that?
It's a small poster.
So what is that size?
This size that we're proposing is a 10 by 21.
And you consider that, I'm sorry, I didn't hear, he asked if there's a small standard size, this one is?
That's the smallest standard that we,
This one? Okay.
but it's smaller than what exists.
Okay, because you did say at the last meeting, if you didn't get this, you probably would build a 75 square foot
We
sign.
would have to have a custom sign built, but it would be extremely expensive, and it just wouldn't deliver the same impact.
Mhm.
It wouldn't deliver the type of messaging that needs to be delivered to our customers.
Chairman Gonzalez, do you mind if I just bring a couple things up?
By all means.
There's two things discussed at the last meeting. One was the status of Port Traverse condominiums. In the packet, you have affidavits from the president, Sally Somerville, says that she swears under oath that, and according to their articles, no unit in the condominium shall be used for other than single-family residential purposes, and the common elements shall be used only for purposes consistent with a single-family residential use. Article 5.2a, no tenant shall be permitted to occupy except under a lease, the initial term of which is 1 year. All renewal leases must be for a term of 1 year. So there's several affidavits you've seen in the packet. Also, I'd like to point out that I left on your table from our assessor all the data. They're classified, all the units are classified 407, that's residential condo class. So just for the record, Chair Gonzalez, thank you.
Thank you. I presume that what we should probably do is go through the proposed findings of fact.
Yes, sir.
You want to
Yes.
lead us through that,
Sure.
please?
As you know, there's both parties have proposed findings of fact. We also, we reviewed Lamar's findings as well, and then, considered them in the proposed findings draft that we've done for the Planning Commission. The information you've received tonight is, actually quite interesting, but remember, this is a simple variance request, and variances are actually simpler in many respects than sometimes boards think, because a lot of the stuff that you've been discussing tonight and which has been presented may be good fodder for the Planning Commission when looking at regulations for the township and ordinance. That's valid material when looking at potentially making changes to your ordinance when there's changes in technology which impact the type of regulations you may have. But for variance purposes, you're simply looking at what is the lay of the land. Is there something unique about this parcel that warrants granting a variance, allowing for the sign to exceed the 75 square feet by 145.60 feet? And in turn, even if it was a 75 square foot sign, if it's illuminated, and I don't think it was a mystery even before the affidavits, because as many of you may recall, or some of you may recall, Port Traverse has been in here before on other topics before the ZBA and the Planning Commission, and we definitely knew that residents in Port Traverse, it was largely residential. In fact, maybe entirely a residential type of condominium association, which does make it a little bit different than the other hotels and other areas where this wouldn't come into play, including other areas along this corridor. But it is what it is. As far as where the location, there's no doubt that it's a residential area. So the twofold variance request here is not just what includes A, the sign exceeding the 75 square foot requirement, and then B, regardless of the size of the sign, if it's illuminated, a variance that allows for it to be within 100 feet. I don't think there's been a direct measurement as to where the nearest residence is in Port Traverse, but I think we know that it's less than 300 feet. And so the applicant should also be aware that even if it was a 75-foot illuminated sign, if the variance is denied, they still wouldn't be able to put that up either. It would have to be a standard sign, because I do believe there's evidence showing that the standard sign would be more than 200 feet from the Port Traverse. So it's a lay of the land. It's very difficult to overcome the standards for a variance to get it granted because there's nothing unique related to the property itself. Again, irrespective of what an applicant may think of the regulations and whether they're good or bad or should be changed. Again, that's a Planning Commission issue and ultimately a legislative decision by the Township Board, not so much in the province of the ZBA, regardless of the information you've received. And that's why the draft findings of fact that we provided as council, in conjunction with, Township Council being also Fahey Schultz as well, are presented as they're presented. And the largest hurdles that we could see there are really, in part, Mr. Millar mentioned, the issue of self-creation, but also the issue of the practical difficulty. Why is it burdensome to maintain a lawful non-conforming sign in the current location? That really hasn't been explained. Why not have a conventional sign versus an LED sign face in of itself? That really hasn't been explained. Can you ask, they can still go for a special use permit, I suppose, for a conventional sign, so they can have 75 square feet, so that's still an option there, which exists. And evidence as to why the 75 square foot billboard would not be read at 45 miles an hour or less, that they did address a little bit tonight at the meeting. That was the only change noted there, but of course there's evidence on the opposite side. Remember that a decision is reviewed if appealed by competent material and substantial evidence on the record. The standard is less than a preponderance, but more than a scintilla. So it's a very low standard of evidence that's needed for you to support your decisions on whether or not to grant or deny the variance. The materials you've received from the public, I don't think I've seen any materials, and Bill, you can correct me, that were in favor of it. And although sometimes that can be considered lesser evidence, it's still evidence, and it's evidence that can be used and be considered more than a scintilla. And as such, these findings were put together, based upon the review of the standards, as well as the materials that were presented. And again, you can make changes if you wish to. You can make corrections. You can go a different direction, but if you do so, your decision must be supported by evidence, even more than the scintilla. And your evidence is your exhibits list, the materials that were presented to you, including the past meeting minutes and including everything you've heard tonight and the answers to your questions during the meeting. But it's, again, variances are meant to be rare, rarely granted. They are difficult, and even though there may be reasons behind it, which may result in other legal action, that the applicant feels are, that the regulations themselves are not fair or not proper, given the technology or things of that nature, that's, again, material that can easily be brought forward to an amendment to the zoning ordinance or request to amend the zoning ordinance before the planning commission. You have to look at the standards for your variance standards, your 7 standards, and abide by those, regardless of those items here. And does it relate to the land? Is there a showing of a practical difficulty? Is there really a true hardship based upon the nature of the property in conjunction with the regulation that exists? Or the regulations as they exist. And therefore, it leads us to the first, finding a factor, the requested variance shall not be contrary to the public interest or to the intent and purpose of this ordinance. These findings, lay out basically items out of your master plan. Talks about the intent and purpose under the master plan. Section 215.7 of the zoning ordinance also states, when it comes to nonconforming signs, they can continue, all right, illegal nonconforming signs, and shall be maintained in good condition. And you have the standards as to how they are to be maintained. And that is still an option that's available. So I guess I'll leave it to the board to go through the first finding and the suggested findings and go from there.
Thank you. All right, under the proposed findings of fact, as you said, the requested variance shall not be contrary to the public interest or the intent and purpose of the ordinance. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because it's rather lengthy.
It's not required.
And my question is that the board has, I presume, read through these. Does anybody have any thoughts about these, objections, or is there should we be taking a motion on each item?
Well, you can take a straw poll, which will be noted in there, and ultimately, though, you'll have to make a motion, consolidated.
For the
motion.
consolidated of the whole thing, all right. Is there any questions, objections as to the first finding of fact?
So you want us to tell you whether we find it satisfied or not?
Yes.
Satisfied.
And whether you wish to adopt the drafted findings of either myself or from Lamar.
Right. So for number one, I don't believe that they're satisfied. They haven't, it does not support the, what am I trying to say? The verbiage is here, intent. Yeah, maybe, it doesn't go with the intent of that district, like I was mentioning before. It is contrary to what we're.
Master plan?
Yeah, what we're trying to achieve down there. So I would say it has not been met. Did I miss number 2?
Number 2, that the requested variance shall not permit the establishment within a district of any use which is not permitted by right within the zone district, or any use or dimensional variance for which a special land use permit is required.
Mr. Chairman, before we delve into that, I know you heard from one
Yeah.
ZBA board member.
But
But
does
Oh, I didn't see anybody else.
just as long as that's the.
Okay, I will say.
I was going to agree with Tracy that the list of the intentions of this ordinance to establish regulations governing the body, the display of signs, which will, that in the first bullet point right there with promote and protect the public health, safety, comfort, morals, and convenience of the ordinance. I think they failed on that front. And also with overload the public's capacity to receive information. That area is quite overloaded. And with distracting attentions or obstructing vision, I had a lot of concerns about how frequently the sign changed in the dwell time there.
We do have regulations in our ordinance as far as how
Dwell time?
often it can,
It is
and
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
yeah, so there is means to structure that, but it's still a moving sign, period, and huge.
Yeah, and then I tried to fish for some background on if it would, businesses feel it would enhance the economy and the business of the corridor, but I didn't really see any solid evidence of that, and I saw a lot of solid evidence of how it would go against our vision for the corridor. So this is where it stopped for me.
Rod?
Well, I think looking at this, I mean, it really, with all the visioning and all the signs down there, it doesn't go, I think, with what's going forward. The board finds the intent and purpose of the regulations is stated in the section 215. I think that, it does, we've got to look at that. It does confusion, difficulty. It really is kind of that paragraph, I think, that really sets it apart.
Okay.
Well, when you come down to it, they're taking down a non-conforming use sign by volunteer deconstruction, I guess. And so if I was tearing down half a house, I'd have to build it by new codes. So I guess I would go in that direction, that they have to follow the new ordinance.
Okay. Well, that is always a key item, and that is that currently we have a non-conforming sign which is allowed. And when there is a substantial change which moves it from, or takes away the non-conforming status, anything that would be erected in its place should be following the ordinance, because it is the, what can I say, general consensus of townships and et cetera, that you want to move from non-conforming to conforming. And that's like one of the cardinal rules. The second golden rule, which has been pointed out again and again, is that this is a voluntary action which is on the part of the applicant, which is now changing the non-conforming situation. So your point is taken, John. Okay, any item, discussion with item number 2? Again, the requested variance shall not permit the establishment within a district of any use which is not permitted by right within the zone district, or any use or dimensional variance for which a special land use permit is required. Tracy?
So it is, it says right here that, it is permitted with a special land use, the illuminated sign, however, the size is not, that's the variance, and that, to me, means that it has not been met.
John?
Yeah, it goes back to what Tracy just said, that it's, we're not meeting the intent of the ordinance. It's-
Rod?
I agree that it doesn't meet the intent. It is, there is an ordinance for a new billboard, and we are not meeting that ordinance.
Yeah, same, I'll agree with that.
Okay. Number 3, the requested variance shall not cause a substantial adverse effect upon properties in the immediate vicinity or in the district in which the property of the applicant is located. Before I ask you this, I'd just like to make a suggestion in the page 19, the second bullet, which said there, it reads as there are residential, long-term rental condominiums located at Port Traverse. My suggestion is that, to clarify that it would read that there are residential as well as long-term rental condominiums. The first reading looks like all of them are long-term residences, and it's not. So I just want to make that suggestion to change the language or add the language with the phrase "as well as," to indicate that there are residences and you may have a rental
Long-term.
situation, long-term. Just to clarify that.
But keep in mind, a long-term rental is considered still residential as opposed
Yeah.
to a short-term.
True.
Yeah.
But this, the way I read it is that it looked like that all the residences were long-term, where in fact they're not, they're owned, and yes.
Do we even need that in there? Just, there are residential condominiums located in Port Traverse? I mean, is it even necessary to put the rental in there? I mean, they all in their bylaws can be rented for year leases, I believe.
Well, I think the bylaws do indicate that you can rent it, and we're just stating the fact that you can.
Yeah, but I think what Mr. Ewing's saying is that it's generally all of them are still a residential use either way, right?
Even if you were
Yeah.
to lease it for residential use.
Right.
So, but whatever we want, just don't have.
Nope, I'm open to it. Do you want to strike it, or you want to?
Strike it.
All right, strike it is. So there will read, there are residential condominiums located at.
Port Traverse. So I would say, another comment, just based on the public input that we've gotten, both email and at the public hearing last meeting and this meeting, it has an adverse effect. So I would say it's not met.
Okay.
I kind of want to build on that same bullet point, because it says would not be screened from the proposed billboard by existing trees. We saw from the video that it was, the light bleed won't go to that. So there's other concerns that I think that should be reflected on here, either in addition to or in replacement of particularly like the distraction. And I for one wouldn't want a billboard like this in front of where I pull in to park, because if, 1 second before I turn, I see a flash and I'm like, Cher is at Turtle Creek Casino next week. I'll probably be distracted by that. And, so I think that is something that should be reflected in this bullet point, is more of the traffic congestion rather than the light pollution, or in addition to. That can be debated, but I think from the technology that you proposed, that light bleed wasn't as adverse as the traffic congestion would be. So I don't know if there's a way to rewrite that, to include that.
Or to make it another bullet point? Yes.
Rod?
The only thing that I kind of saw in here is the last bullet point on 18, page 18, that the request would increase the likelihood of accidents. I really had a hard time finding where there was proof of that, as you yourself, Chairman, mentioned that most of the accidents went down in those reports. I think we just take that bullet point out of there.
The likelihood of increased accidents.
Right. As various studies have indicated that curved roads have approximately 3 times higher crash rates, and that digital billboards increase driver distraction. I don't know if there was really, I had a
But
hard
that go-
time.
Yeah, but that's contrary to what Trenton was just commenting on,
So cut that one out,
Yeah.
is your preference?
is what his
What bullet
preference
point
is.
is that again?
The very last
Third
one.
one.
The request will increase the likelihood of accidents. Yeah, I would, based upon what I had seen, that is.
That was that
counter.
2007, that was that 2007 study, right, that you were referring to?
Yeah, there was a 2007 study, and I believe in
The one-
Cuyahoga County, it was updated to 2009, 2010, something like that, and it showed the same thing.
Okay.
So that's struck,
I think we just take it out.
okay?
But are we still saying it's not met, or?
Correct.
Well, I would also then suggest that we remove the next bullet, which is that the proposed lead billboard would increase light pollution that would be amplified by foggy conditions and light reflection. And the statement is that these would adjust themselves down under that, so I would strike that bullet.
Well, yeah, did the video or any other source say that if it was a foggy condition, that the light
They specifically mentioned that.
They mentioned
I
that.
mentioned that.
in the video? Okay. I don't remember that part, but.
And we've covered the next one. Okay, anything else, Rod?
I think that's it.
I guess I would go back to the last bullet point again and say that 300 feet from the proposed billboard would not be screened from proposed billboard by existing trees. And would be affected by the proposed billboard, be annoying, distributing, cause unusual visual stimulation, would impact quality of life. I think we just said that that wouldn't happen because there's gonna be no light bleed, right? Isn't that what this says? So there are residential condominiums located at Port Travis, which is within 300 feet of the proposed billboard. Period, and that covers the ordinance of 300 feet right there. We just say that it's within 300 feet. It doesn't meet the ordinance of the 300 foot.
Yeah.
Correct?
You may want to add there, because there's twofold things here, and that's whether it's the illuminated sign as proposed, or one that is 75 square feet or less,
Twofold.
because it's two variance requests here. So you're dealing with
Right.
two different things here.
Right.
One thing, illuminated sign, but two things, the size, and the proximity.
I think what John's trying to say is like, we just need in there that fact that it's 300 feet away from the proposed billboard. We don't need all the other light bleed information in that bullet point. Is that what you're trying to say?
That's what you have on there.
Yeah.
Kind of at the word would not be screened from the proposed billboard by existing tree, that is all kind of gone.
Yes, exactly.
Should we just end that first sentence at the proposed billboard?
That's what I would.
And that's a finding of fact that would
Period.
not be met, so.
Period there, and everything else is removed.
There's one final one there where there's a blank there, and I do think that maybe that's the better place to address it, where it would state that the board finds that there are other areas in the US 31 corridor in which an illuminated sign would not be located within 300 feet of a residential use. What that does is to tell you
Are
that
we sure that there is?
I would think so, because my understanding is, you confirm whether that's something that's correct, but from our experience with the township, the balance of those structures there are largely condo hotels that have weekly rentals, weekend rentals, and many of them are owned under a condominium form of ownership, but they're operated as a
Right.
hotel. Such as
Further
the,
down,
you know,
like the Sugars.
exactly, yeah, like Sugar Beach and those. But if you believe that there's residential uses all the way within 300 feet down that entire corridor,
I don't myself.
and I don't believe
I
it.
know that there's one or two homes in there, but I can't,
The homes
right
would
now
be
I
back to
can't.
the South.
There are some situations where there are two hotels side by side, and there's a house right in the middle.
Yeah,
There's a couple like that,
I don't know
but
that
that
we.
few and far between.
Yeah, I know, I don't know if we've measured out that there would be a spot, other than where
Quite
they
frankly,
are
I don't know what's
currently.
opposite those houses, those homes.
That would be on your tax map, right?
Yeah, we did GIS, there's
Did you?
condos across the road and directly to the south, there's at least one parcel that falls within 300 feet.
Oh,
That's what
okay.
I'm talking about, right, on a GIS map, so, I mean, actually had a surveyor come out and do an exact thing.
No, but, so you did identify that there is a place it could
To the
go?
south.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
And that's part of the
So-
GIS mapping that you did
Correct.
for
Yep.
this. Okay, that's the-
So what was your suggestion, Ken?
That there are other areas in the US 31 corridor in which an illuminated sign would not be located within 300 feet of a residential use.
Okay.
There are other options. It may not be related to this property, obviously.
Right.
But my concern is that an allegation that everything is, within that
Right.
corridor is within potentially 300 feet or even 200 feet of a residential use. I don't believe that's to be true. I think that should be pointed out.
Yep,
So we'll add that.
and you'll make sure that Ann gets the correct verbiage for that?
Yes, and this will be also
Okay.
through Faye's office.
Good.
Because they drafted it. So I'll let them know.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, John?
No, thank you.
Okay. Number 4, the conditions or situations which necessitate the requested variance is not so general or of such recurrent nature as to make the formulation of a general regulation for such conditions reasonably practical. I personally don't see anything.
No.
That'd be good.
Okay. Any other comments?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Number 5, the requested variance shall relate only to the property that is under control of the applicant.
That's met.
I think that's clear. That's met. Number 6, the requested variance shall not be necessitated by any self-created condition or action taken by the applicant or the property owner. And I think we've already established that. No comment? John? Rod?
The very last sentence in that, the board finds there is no area along US 31 corridor which the billboard of 300 square feet can be erected. Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine. As long
Yeah,
as-
that's different from
That's
residential.
different.
That's different.
yeah,
Yep, I'm
Because
just-
that is true.
I just had to
Yeah,
read it
I
again,
know.
sorry.
But that is a true statement. I mean,
Yes.
Okay, number 7, there is no reasonable alternative location on the parcel for the proposed improvements for which a variance is sought, where such alternative location would eliminate the need for the requested variance or reduce the extent of the conditions necessitating the variance.
So that's saying on this requested parcel, well, since the sign is the entire spot, the entire area,
Right.
I would have to say that has been met, because there is no other place on that particular location, since the sign is the whole location.
The third bullet point, I don't know what it means. It says the board finds that the applicant could comply with spacing requirements applicable to illuminated billboards only by constructing at the rear of the property. Is the rear of the property far away from the
It gets
road?
away from the residential
Okay.
area.
Other than,
So there's another spot on the actual property that they're leasing?
oh,
that they could
meaning
build
the
it?
whole Smoke and Porter's property.
Back parking.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
but it would reduce visibility from US 31.
Right.
But, you know,
Yeah, it wouldn't be an effective sign.
So then we say it has not been met then.
Well, they
What you're
can
saying.
build it there.
Right.
I'm saying it has not been met because they could build it there, but they
remember,
wouldn't.
it's a use of the land, you know, not whether it's, you know, the greatest thing or anything.
Right.
That's the idea
Okay.
behind it, you know.
Okay.
That's how they're drafted. You know. Up to you.
Okay.
Now, even though that's the end of the regular standards, and I guess you would confirm, it would appear that the board's finding that only standard 5 has been met. There was an effort to go through the special conditions. It may be good to place that on the record in any event, even though, you know, the basic conditions, it doesn't appear they've been satisfied.
So we need to go through those,
Just
you
to
think?
see if you approve the,
Okay.
Okay.
those extra.
There are practical difficulties.
Okay, item 1, where there are practical difficulties which prevent full compliance with the requirements of this ordinance, such practical difficulties shall be evaluated in terms of the use of a particular parcel of land. Neither the fact that the applicant, yeah, it's a little different word there. The applicant could, A, incur additional costs to achieve full compliance, or receive additional income with less than full compliance, shall be determined a practical difficulty for the purposes of this paragraph.
Now, of course, these, you know, you did receive some additional material down there. If you look at the second paragraph, there may be some items there that you wish to not include on there. It's up to you again. Whether you believe the evidence is sufficient
I-
or not.
I think number 2 should probably come out.
Comply with a 75-foot sign eliminating the billboard.
Oh, what did you mean by number 2? Did you mean the second paragraph under 1?
The second paragraph.
So, yeah, second paragraph. Second item bullet.
Yeah, because he did mention the difficulty with a 75 square foot sign being hard to read. Is that what he's going to, yeah, I agree.
Anything else, Trent? Rod?
No, I don't think so. I think we'd pull that.
Okay. No, just number 2.
Number 2,
Okay, I got you. Okay, yeah.
the second bullet point in the second paragraph.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, I agree.
Okay. Number 2, where there are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or physical conditions such as narrowness, shallowness, shape, or topography of the property involved, or the intended use of the property that do not generally apply to other property or uses in the same zoning district.
So I don't think that that's been met just because they haven't said that that's prohibiting them.
Okay? John? Okay, fine. Number 3, where such variation is necessary for the preservation of a substantial property right possessed by other properties in the same zoning district.
Yeah, and I would agree with that finding.
Yes. Okay. John?
Yep.
Yep, okay.
So then, do we need a motion?
You do, and I recommend the motion state that it's based upon the board's findings of fact, including all of the exhibits, through the meeting minutes of today's date. So it would be a motion, assuming that the motion would be to deny the variance, that the denying variance
We have to.
based upon the findings of fact and all of the exhibits
Okay.
before the board.
I would make a motion to deny the zoning variance requests 2-24 and 3-24 based on the findings of facts and all the minutes and exhibits that were presented last weekend, last month, this month.
To staff, and to the board.
Yeah, to staff and board.
And the exhibits include the correspondence.
Correct.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And Bill has already lined up those exhibits.
Yep.
I'll second.
Okay. I'm sorry, was that you, Trent?
Second, yeah.
Okay, moved by Tracy, seconded by Trenton to deny the variances based upon the findings of fact plus all exhibits and information that has been come before the board.
There's a roll call, Chairman?
We'll have a roll call.
Bartlett,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Ewan,
Yes.
Kibble,
Yes.
and Gonzalez.
Yes. Okay. You heard our decision? Thank you. All right. We'll have a public comment at 8:09.
No, you need to come on up. Sorry.
On behalf of Fort Travis, I appreciate your consideration of the concerns we raised and for looking at all the various findings of fact. Thank you.
Thank
Can I have
you.
your name for the record?
Name for the record. Is there anybody else? Okay, seeing none, we'll close it at 8:10. Okay, our next meeting will be August the 13th. Should there be any actions for the board?
Do we have a?
We do have one case
Okay.
coming before the board.
We do have one coming.
Chairman Gonzalez, I will not be able to attend that meeting. Bill, I will not. We need to do both.
Okay. Then we are adjourned at 8:10.